Today we're making hot pepper mustard. Got this recipe from my daughter-in-law Monica. And there's the ingredients: banana peppers, sugar, salt, already prepared mustard, and vinegar. And then later we'll make a roux, fancy name for batter I guess, out of flour and butter. That'll thicken the mustard to make it spreadable. We're going to need one pot to start the process, and one pot of boiling water to boil our jars that we're going to put the mustard into. You'll need your hot peppers. What we have here is the last pick from my garden. It's October now, and peppers are coming ripe. These are serranos, jalapenos, banana, and down in here are the deadly, and I can't emphasize that enough, deadly habaneros. You have to wear gloves, people. This is the most important part of the recipe. You don't want hot pepper hands. You get that on your face, you won't be able to go to work for a week. You'll be blind. We'll start our burner on medium. Add our vinegar. And a cup and a half of sugar. We want to get that sugar dissolved in the vinegar. That was a cup. There's about a half, but I'm emptying the bag, so that's a good thing. Probably end up being a cup and a quarter. Not too critical. Just add some sweetness to your mustard. Next is a quarter tablespoon of salt, which I've put the camera down for. When handling these habaneros, you probably should have some eye protection on too, a pair of reading glasses or anything. And you most sincerely have to avoid touching your face, rubbing your forehead, anything, because it'll stick with you. Oh, does it burn. Peppers are, the heat in peppers are measured in Scoville units. And from memory, jalapenos are about 60,000 Scoville units. These serranos are about 120,000, and these habaneros are over 300,000. All that packed into that little orange puppy. I'm only putting one in my recipe because I want to be able to eat this stuff. I know a guy that I can take these other hot peppers to, and you can put them right on a salad. I can't do that. His taste buds are dead. Mine still live. Isn't that about the prettiest thing you ever saw? I've never done it, but I suppose cooking these peppers is kind of like cooking meth. You don't want to breathe the fumes. Don't put your face over the steam. Don't put anything over the steam. It'll get coated in the pepper oils, and it will inevitably end up in your eyes. I had some spilled on my handle. I had to wipe off. Just trying to be helpful, because even though I brought it up about 5 times already, I have suffered the consequences. This is where we cheat by adding a cup of prepared mustard. A lot of recipes will call you for grinding up mustard seed. I bought a generic brand of yellow mustard because what this mustard tastes like really doesn't matter. Because it's going to taste like hot pepper when we're done with it. So I'm just going to add that once I get the cup squeezed out. We're going to whisk in that mustard. Whisk is definitely the best way to go. And we're going to let that boil for 5 minutes. Slow boil, not too hard, to combine the ingredients and also tenderize the peppers. They were picked fresh. Then we're going to make our roux. And today's kind of special because we're going to make a gluten-free roux with Pamela's artesian flour blend. Gluten-free, non-dairy, and whole grain. We bought a gluten-free. I just breathed some fumes coming out of that pot. from Aldi's supermarket. It's gluten-free, lactose-free, all that stuff, because we have friends that struggle with that. I'm going to start our roux in this small pan here. I'm going to start with 3 tablespoons of butter and 3 tablespoons of the Pamela's flour, gluten-free. Of course, you can use regular flour if you don't have friends that deal with celiac or gluten intolerance. It's often the case. Combine our butter and our Pamela's flour for a thickening paste. As you can see at this point, our mixture, we haven't added the roux yet, is very watery and is certainly not a mustard consistency. So that's why we're adding the roux. I'll just drizzle that a little bit in there at a time until it reaches what you would consider mustard. That has to cook a little bit. I'm going to put the camera down while I spoon out the rest of that into here, and I may have to make a little bit more. That's starting to thicken up a little bit. You want to get it down to the same thickness as store-bought mustard. I used about 2.5 tablespoons of that roux, and now we've reached a mustard consistency rather quickly. As soon as I added another tablespoon, it thickened right up. Now I would call that a good mustard consistency. Now comes the critical part. You want to taste this before you can it, because you don't want to can something you can't eat. You may need a little more sugar, but that has to, season to taste, as they say. So I'm going to taste mine. Boy, is that good. Plenty of heat. Nice and vinegary. Tastes really good. So we're going to can this. Canning procedure, same as any other canning procedure. Boil your jars and your lids, and leave about 1/4 to 1/2 inch head space in each jar. I measured out my mustard so I know how many jars to prepare. There's 8 ounces in a cup. My jars are 8 ounce, so I have 3 cups. I'll need 3 jars. Anything left over I'll just put on a cracker. While our jars are boiling for 3 to 5 minutes, doesn't really matter how long, as long as it's long enough. Quick history about mustard. Mustard's been around forever, but prepared mustard that you could buy in a store has not. It gained popularity in the late 1890s, early 1890s, to put on your meat because nobody had refrigeration, so you had cured meats, some of them with green mold on them, and people would apply mustard to kill the bad taste. It became all the rage. Now I'm going to go show you how it was sold. We're looking inside my curio. This is from Westmoreland Specialty Glass, which started out as a mustard company. Vinegar still they had to make something glass to put it in. This was sold with mustard in it. Still has the label on the bottom. It says prepared mustard, not injurious to health. But it was a brand new thing that people didn't know what it was. This is from Challoner and Taylor. It's a kitty on a hamper. This is French. It's a cannon on top of a drum. There's chickens coming out of a basket. Moses on a bed of reeds. Kitties, lions, chickens. There's dogs in here somewhere. Over there's the dog. There's a dog on a blanket. There's ducks back there, geese, ducks down here. These were all sold with prepared foods in them, mainly mustard, in the late 1890s. tighten each ring down firmly. Hang on, I use my glove to hang on to the bottoms with. I'm going to set them back in the water. One of the reasons is because while I was making the film, mustard had a chance to cool off a little bit, and you want to make sure the contents of the jars are good and hot, and the jars are hot, and the lids have been boiled. The rings don't matter, they don't touch the food. But in order to get a seal, the contents have to be hot and then cool to create a vacuum, a cooling vacuum inside the jars. I just put a simple masking tape label on each jar lid so I can tell what it is when I get down to the cellar to get it. VHPM, Very Hot Pepper Mustard, 2015. Because it was my last picking of the garden, I made 10 jars of hot pepper jelly with my first to second picking. We only had enough to make these 3 jars, but believe me, once you give it away, it'll last you a good while because you don't need to use a lot of it. But the other thing I have to tell you is the whole time I was making this, I had the song "I Was Born Under a Wandering Star" from the movie Paint Your Wagon, sung by Lee Marvin, stuck in my head, which was not an enjoyable experience. So I'll leave you with that. This is your unconscious mechanic making hot pepper mustard.